Rev up your engines! Okay, today we got a car that's got a common problem. It's got that stupid code for inefficient catalytic converter. It's saying the converter in this high mileage Lincoln has problems. So let's see what's really going on without guessing. Well, it's raining outside today, so it's a good thing I can do a lot of my work sitting on my fanny inside, because I can plug my e-scan right here into the dash. As the computer warms up, we'll turn on the e-scan, start the car up. It's got the code P0420 for inefficient catalytic converter. Now they can be like 95% efficient, but that's 5% inefficient. It could trip the code. The car could still run okay, and in the case of this car, as you can see, it's got 154,660 miles. And this Lincoln resides in Tennessee. They do not do emissions testing, so I've seen people drive these things 5 years. They still run pretty much the same as normal. Same gas mileage, about the same power. It's a code that a lot of people will live with, but you live in an area where you got to get your car fixed, or you can't get it inspected to get your registration, you're gonna have to fix it. So warm the car up. You can see it's warming up. I gotta wait till it's around the middle, because you're gonna get false data if you try this on a car that isn't warmed up. The engine has to be fully warmed up, read all the parameters. Then the software in the C-scope system will be able to analyze the car while we drive it down the road. I'll tell you, I didn't have to get outside, and I love it in a rainy day like today. Now, this machine can check the catalytic converter efficiency. In this case, there's bank 1 and bank 2, because this baby has 2 catalytic converters. But as you see, you have to get all these green, so we got to drive it around a while now until these are all green. So off we go. No backup camera on this baby. We gotta use a mirror. And we gotta drive it around a while. Now, as you can see and feel, the thing runs decently. It's not like it's got a problem running, but it keeps tripping that stupid cat inefficiency code. So we're gonna start driving this baby around a while till all those lights turn green over there.
Bank 2 fuel trim, correction marginal. Bank 1 fuel trim, correction good. Bank 2 fuel trim, correction good.
Well, it's showing us that sometimes the fuel trim's good, sometimes the fuel trim is off, so sometimes it's running lean, and sometimes it runs normal. As for example, now it's running normal because it's not telling us anything bad. Got plenty of get up and go.
Bank 2 fuel trim, correction good.
We gotta warm it up, drive it some more. We're gonna run an efficiency test now. Test running at about 40 miles an hour, steady speed, and it's analyzing stuff. Running a test, we're going about 40 miles an hour. Now, as you can see, the efficiency stinks. It's 12.2%. Good is over 21% by this software, right? And it's not horrible, but it's not great. But it runs perfectly fine. It's actually giving wrong data to the computer system, and it's giving us this bad efficiency reading. Well, guess what? That's based on the data from the oxygen sensors. As you can see in this picture, it's got 4 sensors. Bank 1 sensor 1, bank 1 sensor 2, bank 2 sensor 1, and bank 2 sensor 2. In this case, it cannot run the catalytic converter test because, as it says right here, there's a problem with the front oxygen sensor or the fuel control system. Saying the total fuel efficiency is crap, it's supposed to be over 21%, but that data is given by the oxygen sensors, which themselves have a problem, even though he's replaced them. So the question might be, how come this thing runs so good? It's got tons of acceleration, right? Doesn't hesitate, because the computer doesn't get the correct data from oxygen sensors. It guesses. It has numerous graphs inside its computer brain, and it will just guess. And it usually guesses pretty good. Like I say, this thing runs perfectly fine, but it's tripping codes because the sensors are either giving the wrong data because he got sensors that were no good, or the computer system is broken and it's not reading them correctly. But the car runs perfectly fine. I believe there's nothing wrong with these cats because I tried all 4 oxygen sensors and all of them say there's no test data available for them. When there's a problem in the fuel control, bad oxygen sensor, whatever, it will not run the tests for the oxygen sensors whatsoever. The computer's getting bad data, and so it's saying that the catalytic converters are bad. Runs too good for that. I checked them with my meter, and they're not clogged up or anything. So, oxygen sensors, he replaced them.
Good. Bank 1 fuel trim. Correction problem.
See, it's saying 1 trim is bad, bank 1 and 2 have problems. We'll go back to the sharpshooter. I can't run this catalytic efficiency test because got problems here. I do the RPM over a minute, over 1800 RPM, and it won't run green because these oxygen sensors aren't giving the information out. So we're going to get another tool here. We're going to use this scan tool because it does it too. We're looking at oxygen sensor bank 1 sensor 1. Now see what that looks like. And now we're going to look at bank 2 sensor 1. It is different than the bank 1 was. They should be exactly the same. It's not consistent at all. The data coming from these sensors is just wacky. We'll rev it up a little. You can see even though I'm revving it at 1 speed, the data's going all over the place. And you can see again, it's doing completely different than the other one, but it's wacky too. It's outside the limit, yellow is close to the limit. So we can see here, it has red and yellow. It's not great, this is bad. The other side is much better, bank 1. From what I've seen, the bank 2 oxygen sensor seems to be the worst one. Bank 1's off a little bit, but the bank 2 data we got was really squirrely. As you can see here, it can't monitor the catalytic converter. It can't monitor that stuff because it can't determine the status of bank 2. But as you can see, the car works perfectly fine. So he's not going to do anything about it in Tennessee. They don't do emissions testing here. If you live in an area with emissions testing, you're going to have to fix the oxygen sensor system first. You are going to have to use factory oxygen sensors, not these generic aftermarket ones. Oxygen sensors are very sensitive. If you don't use the same exact sensors the vehicle was made with, you're going to have problems because it will not read correctly. Then all kinds of squirrely check engine lights and codes come that often don't mean anything. If you get bad data in because of a bad sensor, bad wiring, bad computer, guess what? You get no data coming out because the computer analysis systems are confused. They can't run their tests. And as you can see here, it won't even turn the check engine light on because it's confused. Now, it turned it on for him eventually, but it hasn't turned it on yet for the machine. So I'm going to get my real fancy Autel out and see if I can get any more data to try to pinpoint exactly what's going on. Quickly loading itself. An LS Lincoln 3.9 liter automatic. He does have a problem with the AC, and it has evaporated discharge sensor circuit short to ground. So inside the dash in the evaporator, you have to take the entire dash apart. These Fords, you can spend well over $1,500, $2,000 tearing them apart and working on those things. It's a pain. Now, the code for the PCM is check of all system isn't complete since the last memory clear because it's not finishing its checking. If it can't finish checking stuff, it can't do anything. Let's look at the live data. So far, there's no bad data. Everything's black. Not misfiring. It's running fine. The engine's fully warmed up. It's in the middle. I've been driving around for an hour, but the heated oxygen sensors, all 4 of them, the heater is on. Once the engine's warmed up, those heaters are supposed to turn off. Said he changed all 4 oxygen sensors, and I'm assuming he got bad ones. The heater current monitor, 1, 2, 3, there's the 4 sensors, right? One of them's taking 800 milliamps, one's taking 1.19, one's taking 832, and one is taking 1.26, right? If the oxygen sensor system is squirrely, it's not going to know how much fuel to add or subtract. It's just guessing because they're not working right. The engine's not misfiring at all, 0. It's running perfectly fine, idle, slow. Now just for kicks, let's run the Ford Keon engine running codes. Now the computer's taking over the car. Now it's idled it down. It's doing what it's supposed to do. Even now, with all that testing, there are no trouble codes detected. And it runs like a clock. So in this case, he's lucky. He lives in Tennessee. Car runs perfectly fine. It just gets codes after a long time of driving it, but it still runs okay. If you lived in an area where you had to get it inspected, you'd be screwed because it's not finishing the testing yet. So if you took it in to get it inspected, it would say mill not ready, drive it until you can get it all tested because it won't finish the testing, so you'd fail the test, and by the time it does eventually go through, it'll trip the code for inefficient catalytic converter. So hey, Good thing he lives in Tennessee, runs perfectly fine. It just shows you should have never bought those oxygen sensors aftermarket. It's still showing that the stupid things are getting electricity for their heaters, and they're not supposed to. And if you do get bad oxygen sensors, they can feed back and destroy your computer. So never use aftermarket sensors. Only use, in this case, the Ford original equipment ones. They're the only things that really jive with the system. The car runs fine, but hey, if you live in an area where you do emissions testing, you won't be able to legally drive the stupid thing, even though it runs perfectly fine. And of course, this also shows you another thing. Lincolns, when they get old, can become electrical nightmares. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.